So the idea of making soap raises a lot of questions, and I get it. It seems very strange. There's a lot of weird ingredients. People will tell you that it's dangerous, and everybody who is just getting interested in this has so many questions. This video is going to address the ones that I get asked the most and hopefully answer them once and for all. First of all, I'd like to be super clear that I'm not a soap making expert. I'm not a professional soap maker. I'm someone who does this as a hobby. I've been doing it for over 10 years and I'm really familiar with it. I really love it. I love talking about it and teaching about it. But if you are looking for like an official person who is the expert in soap, I am not it. What I can do is share my experience, break things down in a way that people can understand easily, and hopefully you find that more helpful than the most expert soap maker out there. So the first question that I get asked almost every single day is, when someone is looking at a soap recipe, they want to know, can I substitute this ingredient for that ingredient? That is a super common question and it makes sense. A lot of people have things on hand that they'd like to use, like coconut oil, or they're against palm oil, or any number of reasons, allergies, preference, things like that, that they don't want to use a particular ingredient. Now, the answer to this question is basically almost always the same. You can substitute any oil you would like in a soap recipe for any other oil, with the understanding that at this point you are creating your very own recipe and you have to run it through a soap calculator. If that seems weird and uncomfortable to you, then the answer is no. You can't substitute anything in a soap recipe. It has to be done exactly as written. You have to keep in mind that when you change any ingredient, the properties of the soap are going to change. So a lot of people are really opposed to palm oil for environmental reasons. It is a very popular oil in soap making because it makes the bar hard, it's really inexpensive, and it gives great lather. So if you're going to take that away, those are properties that you're going to lose in your bar of soap. There's no exact equivalent for most ingredients. As a general rule, you can substitute things like shea butter and mango butter almost interchangeably, but again, you always have to run this through a soap calculator and make sure the amount of lye doesn't change. The next question I get asked all the time is, why don't you wear gloves and goggles when you're making soap? I do actually wear goggles when I make soap. It sometimes looks like I don't because I have one camera when I do my videos. So I'll make the soap first and then I'll like come on camera and talk about it. And I don't wear my goggles in that part because there's this like weird reflection of lights, but I do wear goggles when I make soap. I don't wear gloves, that is true. I absolutely recommend that you wear gloves. You're dealing with a raw lye batter and it's very caustic and it can burn your skin. I will tell you, I have gotten lye on my skin. It stings, and then when you clean it off, it's a little bit itchy and it sometimes stings for an hour or so afterwards. I've never had a disastrous lye burn or anything like that. I am careful. Of course, you should wear gloves, but you're right, I don't do it. Another common question is, can I add some certain ingredient to my soap? Not to be confused with substituting different oils. A lot of people want to know if they can add things like coffee grounds. Can they use goat's milk instead of the water? Can they do rose petals or herbs or things like this? Usually, yes, you can. The general rule of adding mix-ins to your soap is that you want them to be totally dried, so you would never want to do something like a fresh basil. You would want to do dried because anything that has moisture in it in a bar is going to start to mold. But setting that aside, if you have dry things like seeds, dried herbs, dried rose petals, coffee grounds, yes, you can add those at trace, which means when the soap has formed a batter, you can go ahead and stir those in by hand. Usually it's not going to be a problem. That is just one of the many fun things about soap making. You get to customize the whole process. Another question, what are the best ways to fragrance soap? Now, my preference is to use a specific fragrance oil. This is different from an essential oil. It is especially formulated to work in cold processed soap, to stick well in the soap, and to have a good fragrance. They're chemical fragrances. They aren't natural. They are a chemical fragrance that is really similar to what you'd find in store-bought Bath and Body products. Some people feel that the whole point of making soap is to avoid chemicals like this, so you can totally leave them out and have an unscented soap. Another choice is to use essential oils as fragrance, but you have to be careful. Unlike a fragrance oil, which is designed for cold processed soap and designed for contact with your skin, an essential oil isn't always. So if you have someone who you can talk to about your essential oils and is really knowledgeable about them, they will know which ones are safe for soap and they will know which ones are safe to use on your body. There's also no hard and fast rule like 1 tablespoon per pound of oils the way there is for fragrance oil. For essential oil, it is different for every single oil. They all have their own properties. So this is something that if you choose to do it, you need to do a little bit of research on your own to get the right amount and figure out whether or not it's a good choice. Another popular question, what can I do if I don't have a scale to measure my ingredients? And I hate to give this answer, but the answer is you can't make soap without a digital scale. It's an absolute must. I typically hate when I'm baking and I find a recipe where things are by weight. It just kind of gets on my nerves. I don't know why. I'd rather just do it by volume. So I'm with you. It is annoying to pull that thing out and start measuring by weight, but you have to do it with soap. There's absolutely no alternative. There's no choice. You have to use one. The most common question and the one that gets on my nerves the most, and I'm sorry if you've asked me this, I'm not saying you're getting on my nerves, just that this question gets on my nerves. How can I make this soap recipe without lye? Okay, the whole process, cold process soap means the process of oil reacting with lye and becoming soap. It's a chemical reaction. At the end of it, there's no more lye, there's no more oil, they've done their chemical thing, and they are now soap. So you can't do it without lye. There's no way. It would be like saying, how do I bake without heat? It's impossible. You cannot do it. By definition, cold processed soap requires lye. If you don't want to work with lye, I totally get it. Totally fine. You can't make cold processed soap. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to get mad about. There are plenty of other ways to do it. You can use melt and pour soap, where you're just melting. It's like a big block of already made soap. You're melting it down. You add color, you add fragrance, you add your herbs or whatever. You do the fun part, but you don't have to calculate anything. You don't even have to have a scale for that. And you don't have to work with lye. But if you want to make cold processed soap, if I give a recipe for cold processed soap and it has lye in it, there's no getting around it. You have to use it. Another question that goes along with the lye question is, well, if lye is so dangerous and it can burn your skin when you're working with it, why in the world would you put it in soap, which is something that you use on your skin? And that makes total sense. That's a good question. And the reason is because, like we said before, this is a chemical reaction. When you're done making soap, there's actually no lye left in the finished product. So when you look at when you buy most soap at the grocery store, it's not actually soap. It's a detergent bar. It's almost like laundry detergent, but in a bar form, but a little bit more mild, and they add some sort of moisturizing ingredients. But if you go to like a gift shop or a place that sells real cold processed soap, or a farmer's market, bars that tend to be pretty expensive, at least $6, and you look on the label, you're not going to see lye, even though they're made with lye. What you'll see is saponified oils of, and then it will say things like coconut, palm, olive, whatever, and that means oils that have been saponified or made into soap using lye, but no lye remains in the finished bar. So that's why, even though it is very harsh on your skin, we use it in soap, because by the time it turns into soap, it's all gone. Another question that I get a lot, and this is sort of something where there's a little bit of opinion involved, it's kind of up to you, is can I use my regular cookware to make soap? Now, I would say no, but for me, the main reason is you're gonna have a lot of fragrance in your soap batter, and if you're using like rubber spatulas especially, that fragrance will stick on there and you're not gonna wanna cook with it after that. Some people will say that it's dangerous because of the lye. That makes absolutely no sense to me. You're gonna be washing it out. There's no raw lye lurking on a pot, but I would still say no, do not use it, mostly because of the fragrance. And you can always find pretty inexpensive cookware at yard sales, but you'll want to look for one that is stainless steel, not aluminum, because that's reactive. Another super popular question that I actually have an entire video on is, where are the best places to get soap making supplies? And the short answer is something like Amazon or Walmart is fine for the scale and the stick blender, but I do prefer an actual soap making supplier for the oils, and especially for the fragrances and the colors. They have great selection, they're really well priced, and when you're buying oils, bulk oils, You don't want to buy coconut oil like what you would buy at the grocery store. That is more expensive because it's food safe. If you get it from a soap making supplier, it's going to be a lot less per ounce. And sort of along with that, another very popular question is, do you save money by making your own soap? And I would say it's hard because you have to, at the beginning, you have to buy a stick blender, you have to buy a scale, you have to buy a mold, and those are really expensive. I would say all of that together is going to be at least $100. And then you have the ingredients. So if you're just counting the ingredients, it can be very expensive or it can be very inexpensive. You could make a whole loaf of all coconut oil soap if you buy your coconut oil in bulk for probably about $2. That's going to give you about 10 bars, so 20 cents a bar. Yeah, that's really cheap. You're not going to be able to buy any soap cheaper than that. Are you going to love a soap that's all coconut oil? Probably not. And then we still haven't included the cost of the supplies. So I really don't know. If you are super hard up for money, like you want everything to be as cheap as possible, no, I would not recommend that you go out and spend $100 on soap making supplies. And I'm not saying that with any type of attitude. I've been there, I get it. No, you shouldn't buy soap making supplies to save money in the short term. In the long term, will it save you money? I think it will. You also can sell your bars on the side, and that can help totally cover the cost of your supplies and your ingredients. So you're basically getting soap for free. So it's a question that really varies. You can make soap affordably, or you can spend a ton of money on luxury oils, fragrances, colors, doodads, 100 molds. And I would say that most people who get into soap making end up spending a lot of money on things like molds, fragrance, colors, because they're fun to buy. So it's a hobby. Not everything in life has to be a money-saving endeavor. Some things are just fun, and soap making is one of those. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have more questions, feel free to ask them. I can answer them in the comments, or maybe I will do a follow-up video. I'm going to do a video in the future showing you how to use a soap calculator and create your own soap recipes. If that's something you're interested in, I will do a separate video because I know not everyone is into that. And I'll also link for you some soap making suppliers that I mentioned in the video, as well as videos to some of my very favorite soap recipes. That's it, and I hope you have a great day. I will see you guys next week.